Welcome, welcome to this place of sanctuary and friendship and spiritual practice. Each of you arrived here carrying your own particular joy, gratitude, burden, and fear. Let us gently hold all of these as we sit before this beautiful window of chalice and flame, listening to the spoken word and being comforted by music. After the service, please don't rush away. Join others in the fellowship hall to meet friends, make new friends, and to share your stories and experiences over coffee, tea, and other refreshments. For newcomers, we have a welcome table with the nicest folks ready to answer your questions and help you feel at home. I have a little announcement. You might have noticed it's a little cool in here. It might even be cooler in here than it is outdoors right now. Facilities is working to install the most wonderful heat pump, but it is not yet fully connected. And I can't guarantee that it'll even be connected next Sunday. So bring layers, as we're all, Pacific Northwesterners, so do that, and then you can start shedding if you need to, but you might not need to. Reverend Rick sends his love to all of you, but due to the unexpected intensity of pain associated with dental issues, he cannot be here. I have agreed to channel him. In turn, I would like us to take a moment to send him your prayers and thoughts. To remind us what this congregation values and how it strives to live into them, let us say our affirmation together. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world.
Start a love train, love
Bob will now light the chalices. The first is for our congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. I know it will light. I tried it. Yes. The second is for our partner church in Šimun-Falva, Transylvania, Romania. And the third is for our children and youth here and around the world. Let us sing the flame into life. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. And now it's time for all ages. Is that right? Yeah. Are you in charge of that today? All right. Come on up.
Good morning, everyone. Can I have anyone young or young at heart come up front? Wonderful. So happy to see you guys. So today we have, oh good, here comes another. Hi, buddy. Today we have a skit. So this skit is going to be done by myself, and I've got some helpers, Lily and Alex and Caleb. Come here, you three. And remember, come on, Alex, let's stand up. And we're going to talk slow and loud and wait for the microphone. Right, guys? Okay.
We UUs have always been a radical bunch, outsiders, not willing to fit neatly into little boxes.
That's right. A long, long time ago on a continent far, far away.
That's not the UU story.
Oh, right. That's another story. This one's pretty old, though. From the 1500s to the 1700s, in Europe, Unitarians were being kicked out of places all over the world due to persecution. But it's generally accepted that the beginning of our church was in Transylvania.
Wait, like Dracula, Transylvania?
Yes, same place, but less vampires.
Hang on, what was so bad about them? Why did Unitarians have to move out of where they were living?
Churches during this time were forming and reforming all over the place. But one of the key things about Unitarians was that they didn't believe Jesus was God. They believed God was God, and that Jesus may have been a prophet or inspired by God, or maybe even the savior of humankind, but he was not God. They also allowed for this kind of debate. In fact, they had a 9-year-long debate at one point about it.
9 years? That's how old I am. Probably because they didn't have memes.
Or TikTok. Someone could have just made a TikTok about them.
That's probably accurate. If we fast forward a few hundred years, we get to meet the Universalists. They were heavily influenced by Transcendentalists, Humanists, and even Buddhism.
What's a transcend what?
Transcendentalists believe in the inherent goodness of people and nature, that heaven wasn't some faraway concept. Heaven could be the feel of a warm breeze in the summer, or the beauty of butterflies emerging from chrysalis. These were the evidence of God.
Or like the sunsets can be bright pink or bird feathers shimmer in sunlight?
That's right. The magnificent wonder of nature can be inspiring and can bring us closer to a sense of spiritual self.
Okay, but I thought the word universal meant like all of something, right?
Yeah, I think it does. Like, all people?
Yes, another aspect of universalism was that the belief that all people were deserving of salvation and would enter heaven, or their concept of heaven. Another thing Unitarians and Universalists agreed on was that they didn't believe in the concept of original sin taught by some Christian churches. They were more like humanists. This way, believing that people can have rational thoughts, figure things out, and choose how to do things matters more than what we believe about things. Or as we UU say, deeds over creeds.
Honestly, this is all kind of confusing. Like, why does it even matter? Most people just go to church and read the Bible and go to lunch on Sundays. Does religion even matter anymore?
Right, like, did you hear that? Most Americans don't attend church anymore. Like 14% go a few times a year. Is this even relevant?
Great points. It's really confusing and complicated, isn't it? And it needs to be. Many people are seeking simple, absolute answers to complex questions that we face today. And our ancestors in both the Unitarians and the Universalists were outliers. They were rebels. They didn't accept the simple, absolute answers given by the authority. They wanted to talk, debate, think, and ponder the mysteries of our universe. There are no absolutes.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. That's Jedi wisdom.
You are wise, Master Lily.
You guys.
You know who else was wise? All the hundreds of historical Unitarian Universalists that did really cool, radical, forward-thinking things. People like Susan B. Anthony and Mary Wollstonecraft.
Oh, they were women who fought to get votes for women.
Yep. And Clara Barton, founder of the American Red Cross.
And Alexander Graham Bell and Frank Lloyd Wright, creator of the telephone and famous architect.
And Beatrix Potter, too. She wrote all the Peter Rabbit stories.
Nah, I still think I'm more like Obi-Wan. He tells Luke in Star Wars, "Force is what gives a Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together."
Well, you are in luck. One of the most famous Unitarian Universalists, Ralph Waldo Emerson, said a human being is a stream whose source is hidden, whose being is pouring in from somewhere else. As the earth lies in the soft arms of the atmosphere, every particular person is contained in the force, oversoul, the unity within which we are all made one with all the other. There is a common heart. It is that force that makes us feel enlarged by doing good things and diminished by doing wrong.
Oh, sounds a little Jedi.
Maybe that is for us to discuss and think about. In this place, we offer safety to think big, unusual, and wild thoughts.
So maybe God really isn't a butterfly wing.
Could be, and I hope this little conversation has made you feel a little more proud of your Unitarian Universalist roots. They were a bunch of independent thinkers and creators. Now that's you. You all can carry that with you as you ponder all the difficult things of our world. But you're not alone. We got you. So this month we talk about heritage. And so when we think about heritage, we want to think about our roots. And that was one thing that little skit had, and that was a skit that Molly found for us to do. And thank you to my helpers. You guys did great. So our roots can help us learn things, both good and bad. And they can help us have courage, because it helps us know that we are not alone. Cool? I do have some birthday cards, because I gotta do that. We haven't had time for all ages in the last few weeks. Okay, is Emily? Emily's got me up here today, so there's one for Emily. And I have one for Reed. Yeah. And then, is Ember here? No. Nori? Or Hope? Did I miss anybody that had a birthday or had wait. We have a really cool thing that's going to be happening in the parking lot. We have a trunk or treat. And I understand that there's only one person that signed up, so we need more people. It's on October 28th. If anyone wants to sign up, there will be sign-ups in the fellowship hall after church. And you don't have to dress up. You just bring your car and bring candy, and it's really easy to do. Okay, can we make the love arch, please?
Sometimes we may feel that compassion is just too small a band-aid for the hurts of the world. But our lives in the here and now call us to take our friend's hand and hold it when they suffer, to listen gently to the confused anguish of a teenager, to serve a hot meal to a houseless family. These actions and so many more fill the world with compassion, which does heal the world bit by bit. And when we see pictures of yesterday's eclipse that a friend took, my friend, took on their camera, we feel gratitude for the beauty of this phenomenal solar system and the kindness of sharing. When I walk down a back alley and discover an abandoned lot with a tree full of red apples, barely blemished with fruit-loving insects, I rejoice in gratitude that I can sink my teeth into the sweet flesh and share a piece with my apple-loving dog. Gratitude for some unknown person who planted the tree. Gratitude for the sun and the rain and even the ash that fell and fertilized the plants extravagantly without permission. Compassion and gratitude walk hand in hand.
Good morning. I'm Eric Schumann, one of your Lifeline's lay ministers. And we have a joy and a concern, both in the same message. And that message is from Lisa Guillermo. You saw some of her art earlier. She shared a photograph. I like it that we share art from our members and friends each Sunday to look at, and I want to thank Lisa for that. So she has both a joy and concern. She wrote, Thursday night before our Friday the 13th move from West Salem to South Salem, we spent over 4 hours in the ER while Rudy was diagnosed with pneumonia. The move was very challenging, but we're in our wonderful new home, and I found my real toothbrush and our coffee-making stuff this morning. Please send positive healing thoughts our way for Rudy's health. So that's our only submitted joy and concern this morning, but we always have one more candle for those joys and concerns that many of us have within that we don't express. I'm privileged to be one of your Lifeline's lay ministers, and We're the folks who wear the lavender badges, and someday we're going to have stoles. But for now, we have these little green ribbons that we sometimes wear. And we're jealous of the choir that has beautiful stoles. And what we do is help Reverend Rick share his ministry to all of us. We help with outreach. We help listen. That's what we're supposed to be best at, active listening and really caring folks who are available either through the email address that you can see on the screen behind me or after the service in the coffee hour at the table, which is designated. So we look forward to seeing you there.
In out-of-the-way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage kindled and out you stepped onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you, though your destination is not yet clear. You can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning, that is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. Long, long ago, back in the 4th century BC, the great Greek philosopher Socrates observed how the majority of his fellow Athenians lived. And he was greatly perturbed because an essential ingredient was missing from their lives. He saw them doing all manner of things to take care of their bodies and their property. Then, too, they obviously cared deeply about their reputations and worked hard to keep up a good front. They focused their hearts and minds and gave their attention to these 3 things: body, possessions, reputation. Actually, not so different now. 25 centuries later, it's the way of the world. This is where he would take a drink of water. Well, you can call me cranky if you like. Oh, pardon me. You're naturally wondering. We take another drink of water. You're naturally prompted to wonder, why were you, Socrates, being so cranky about all of this? It's just normal human behavior. We have to get along in the world. Well, you can call me cranky if you like, but what bothers me, said one of the world's greatest sages, is that you spend all your lives caring for these things: body, possessions, reputation, but none of you takes care of your soul. Indeed, Socrates claimed that all his philosophical explorations had but one clear purpose in mind: the care of the soul. So he wasn't just bandying big philosophical ideas around at the Lyceum for intellectual entertainment. He was onto something more profound, more meaningful. Ancient Greek notions of the soul are more than we need to delve into. So rather than get lost in those weeds, just think of soul as your total self, your whole being, especially including your highest and noblest sentiments and aspirations. Your most sublime visions, all those ineffable, life-affirming qualities within us, all that can guide and inform a good life. For Socrates, a healthy soul was one that was not tethered solely to sense pleasures, but was rather guided by the pursuit of the true and beautiful, the yearning for wisdom and courage. The skeptical modern mind wonders, why is this so important? What happens when you do not take care of your soul? Nothing good, it turns out. You get ill. Count on it. Either spiritually ill, mentally ill, or just too full of ill will if you do not take good care of your soul. Yet, here's the problem. Not only do we, meaning our general society, not take care of our souls, we don't even acknowledge that we have them in the first place, because it's certainly not an easily grasped fashionable notion, nor is it something you can see or touch. It's not considered real. So it is that the soul gets starved, abused, neglected in our world. Statistics on the growing prevalence of mental illness, loneliness, anxiety underscore this sad point. Then, knowing nothing else more elevating, the soul shrivels and conforms to the sordid social world around it. The abuse of the soul, tragically, often begins quite early for too many. Some childhood trauma or tragedy gives the young soul a major, devastating whack. Recently, a friend of mine told me of how his father died when he was only 5 years old, and how his mother then plunged into severe depression, rendering her emotionally inaccessible. For the next decade, he simply endured his childhood. He was, in effect, cast off by fate to fend for himself. For others, the traumas may be more subtle, but no less insidious in that they puncture, wound, diminish the young soul. It breaks your heart to think about all the challenges and burdens so many young ones bear in our world. Yet even those who come through their early years more or less intact still have souls that will take all manner of blows as you pass through the gauntlet of life. There are all manner of pains and sorrows, the losses, the rejections, heartbreaks, failures, stress, and anxiety. Then there is the crippling fear, the ugly hate, the senseless greed, and ambition that can grip the heart and mind. All of which is to say, something's gonna whack or suck the life out of your soul, unless you are a rare and fortunate soul. And then what? The worst case scenario is that you won't even know the difference. You won't even be aware that you can't really see and enjoy life in its wondrous fullness, because your soul has been whacked, cracked, and zapped by something. You've lost whatever spiritual perspective you had. And now you have a greatly diminished view of life, a narrowed tunnel vision, focused too much on the wrong things. This is what everyone has to contend with. And it's not exaggeration or hyperbole to say that these are especially hard times that strain, damage, and diminish the soul. Our world seems like this. There I am, sitting outside on the patio, and suddenly there is silence. No barking dogs. Peace, quiet. It's only then that I realize that a leaf blower, one of many that blows in the neighborhood, had stopped. The racket of life becomes the norm, yet we only notice that the racket was there in the first place when it's gone. That's how these leaf-blowing times are. The soul doesn't even know it doesn't have peace, that peace of mind is possible. Ours is not a soul-friendly age, but in a larger sense, it doesn't matter. Rick, what are you saying? Just because there are clouds blocking out the sun doesn't mean that you lose faith in the light. It's always shining beyond the clouds of chaos and confusion. Our socioeconomic political system does not plan for you to find this light, but the soul's luminosity still finds a way to shine through the cracks into whatever dungeon of despair life may have cast you, which points to the best case scenario you can experience. And this plays out in an infinite variety of ways, because even though we're all the same, we're also all different. Which is to say that the light breaks through the cracks of our dungeons of despair in ways that are unique to who we are. I know this from talking to countless good folks over the years. At the end of my friend's bleak childhood journey through a love-forsaken psychological wilderness, he landed a job at the age of 14 as an apprentice surveyor and headed far out into the actual wilderness of far northern Ontario, Canada. Out there, far beyond the small, loveless world that had damaged his soul, he encountered a different, vaster universe. Imagine seeing the Milky Way and the aurora borealis in the northern night skies, absent the light pollution of urban sprawl. He told me that it was his many years of living in this environment that slowly but steadily enraptured and restored his soul, that gave him a deep wisdom. He was, in effect, born anew. For me, as many of you have heard over the years, my deeply troubled young soul was healed and restored by the music of I hope you're listening, Rick. And then by a vast and always growing treasure chest of masterpieces, about which I will devote an entire service to tell you about. Today, over a half century later, I cannot imagine who I would be if I had not had the opportunity to have my soul healed and immeasurably enriched by this most sublime of all languages, the language of music. I'm not sure I would have made it without the music and meditation. As I have so deeply loved this music, I have encouraged others to listen, and some have done so, but I have discovered that each of us finds our own discoveries in this glorious world. So I know now not to force things upon people. Not everyone's soul is going to be saved by Beethoven. Yet this I know, each one is called to those places where you encounter the soul's ennobling light. You may encounter this out in the wilderness, or in art, or deep reflection, or in activities which enable you to realize your connectedness to something beautiful and meaningful and profound. Life is never going to be easy, but when you discover your soul, it will not be meaningless, but full of infinite promise and possibility. You begin to discover within yourself the loftiest feelings, the most sacred dreams and visions, wherein you perceive such beauty that it smites your anxious little heart into pieces, and then you discover your larger heart, and you will never be quite the same again. There is an old 19th century Unitarian hymn, number 40 in our gray hymnal, that has a line that sums it up. Quote, "The soul has lifted moments above the drift of days when life's great meaning breaketh in sunrise on our ways." Yet too many don't get to experience such lifted moments, such sublime sunrises, and too many souls have not yet been awakened, touched by such light. Then the soul becomes impoverished, neglected, When the soul becomes a stranger to beauty, grandeur, to a sense of awe and humility before the sacred mystery of being itself, then there is a great danger. When the soul does not know such lifted moments, you are subject to the gravitational pull of internal and external forces: greed, hatred, delusion, Buddhism's 3 poisons, that shrink and diminish your soul. A nation, a world full of people with shrunken, uncared-for souls makes us ever more susceptible to cruel tyrannies of the mind and spirit. It makes it ever more likely that we will dehumanize one another and be seduced into the hellish maelstrom of hate. This is why democracy is imperiled today. Taking care of your soul gives one independence of mind, courage, and personal resolve to pull apart from the madding crowd where hate and vitriol pollute the atmosphere. Today, it is hard to avoid inhaling those toxic fumes. A healthy society needs people who are not primarily out for themselves or easy prey for demagogues, but out for all of us, those whose souls are fulfilled and who seek to fulfill the common good. Like my friend George, out there in the wilderness where he discovered his soul, and your true soul will always lead you in good directions. He knew that an integral part of his purpose in life would be to use his talents. He was gifted with visual spatial intelligence and a high sense of moral purpose. So he was drawn to the field of architecture. Yet his focus was not on individual buildings, but entire communities and cities, his aim being to create livable cities. Now, there are bike lanes and pedestrian paths and green spaces and much more. This dear man, once a little boy all alone in the world, has blessed and enriched our world because austere, awesome grandeur of the Arctic wilderness awakened his soul. Every time I am around such people, I am lifted up, and afterwards I find myself asking, how is my soul moving me to bless the world? Take a couple of slow, deep breaths in and out. Let go of any tension in your shoulders. We, you and I, are in between right now, in between what was and what will be, in between who we were and who we will become, in between letting go and embracing, in between saying hello and saying goodbye. In-betweenness, it's a thing. In-betweenness is a time of fullness, a time of anticipation, hope, worry, sadness. In-betweenness is a time of waiting, waiting for news, for departure, for arrival, for death, for life. In-betweenness is a time of transformation, a time of reflection, of action, growing, becoming. During this time of in-betweenness, of knowing and not knowing, let us enter into the silence together. UUCS is a place of sanctuary, spiritual growth, friendship, connection, and so much more. This would not be possible without your generous support. We share your monetary donations with an area organization that puts our UU principles into action. For the month of October, it is Salem for Refugees. The current conflict in the Middle East is a grim reminder that people, through no fault of their own, must search for asylum and new places to call home, because what was once home has become unsafe and life-threatening. Salem for Refugees helps our new neighbors discover the tools and resources they need to become confident in making their own decisions and achieving their own goals as they resettle in Salem. Furthermore, the bonds that form among refugees and volunteers transform our community into a stronger, more hopeful place in which to live. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have volunteered for Salem for Refugees? Okay, there are opportunities. Weekly, we also give to the Salem community through donations of non-perishable foods to the Marion Polk Food Share, which you can place in the little red wagon. Please put your cash and checks made out to UUCS in the offertory bag when it comes your way. Or you may go to the website to donate. And remember, whatever the size of your gift, it matters. It matters to you, and it matters to this community. Thank you.
Everyone
The longest sermon in the world by Reverend Rick Davis. Ha! I'll believe it when I hear it. So, come next Sunday. What else? Board forum. Yahoo! Raise your hand if you're a board member. There's one. There's a whole bunch of them. So you can meet them during fellowship time. They will have their own table, and the specific topic, what are you saying? You can read it up front. Oh, sorry. That's what you were saying. Okay. They'll be not in the fellowship. Go get your coffee, bring it back, and you can meet with them here. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. And you'll find out what that facilities team has been doing besides putting in a new heat pump and why it's not already in. No. So be nice to them. They work very hard. Okay, what else? And if you want, there's lots of stuff going on at UUCS. Lots of ways to connect too, by email. It's all there. Facebook. There are hot topics, news. If you do not receive any of these, either snail mail or by email, contact the office, okay? And the number is there, but you can just go online and find it, okay? I think that is it. So let us light the social justice lantern. He will transfer the light from our chalice to the social justice lantern, a symbolic gesture to remind us all to walk with kindness and act out of a caring heart throughout this week. And he will also extinguish the chalice flames, but he will not extinguish the sacred light in you or your soul.
Our closing hymn today is number 1024, When the Spirit Says Do. Before we begin, I just want to let you know we'll be singing it 3 times through. The slides aren't going to be exactly right, but the first time will be correct. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. The second time we'll sing. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. Third time through, we'll go back to do. So the slides will be right 2/3 of the time. Now, will you please rise in body or spirit as you are able while we sing hymn 1024, When the Spirit Says Do. Here we go. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you've got to do. Oh Lord, you've got to do when the Spirit says do. 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 You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you've got to sing. Oh Lord, you've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. To do. Spirit says 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 sing. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. You've got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you've got to do. Oh Lord, you've got to do when the Spirit says do. Spirit Spirit says do. 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 Spirit says do.
So do please remain standing, and with your hand in your neighbors, if you will, let's say our closing words. Virtual neighbor of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come. Thank you so much. I think when the service is over, if you could Terry to play maybe just the last hymn, as people, it just seems like it's so quiet. Would you like to light